This production is sponsored by S&J Detailing, the patio and driveway cleaning experts. Quote Super League Raw on quotation for an exclusive discount. S&J Detailing and Super League Raw, washing away the competition. So we're back. We are back for more of, put Matt in his rightful position. We had that right, didn't we, mate, before we started? Anyway, these things happen. It's back under the Floodlights, a members story. Of course, we started these in the close season, and we're back. We're back for the next one. And it's Matt Timms before we get Matty in. So hello, Matt.
Hey, Dave, how you doing?
I'm very well indeed, mate. Very well indeed. So for those people who are non-members, this is what we do. We get the members on and they have their own show. They have their own interview. I'm Michael Parkinson and this is whoever Matt decides he wants to be. Right, Matt, let's get into some chat. Let's do some easier stuff. Italian and Chinese, mate?
Italian.
Italian, nice. Red wine or white?
White with the wife, red on my own.
Good man. Solid. You know your place there, mate. Bitter or lager?
Lager, but real ale over anything. So like, your craft ale and stuff like that. I'm a real craft man. So yeah.
Happy days. Gotta be there. If you had a dinner party, 3 people, who'd you invite?
That's a cracking question. That I'm gonna try and take that one from sports and one from others, maybe. Oh God, you've got me, Dave. You've really got me, mate. You've really got
We'll
me.
come back to that then.
Let me have a think. We'll come back
to that one. Yeah. Fair enough. Right. Let's start a few rugby questions. Let's get into it. Your favourite ever rugby league player?
Big Earl. I was a big fan of Earl Crabtree back in the day. I know he never played for the Red Devils, but I think he was probably playing and coming into sort of his prime when I started properly watching rugby league. I was probably a little bit late to the rugby league party and probably started, I think it was somewhere around 2002, 2003, where I started watching. I think Earl was probably just coming onto the scene maybe at that time. He was probably a bit younger then, weren't he? Yeah. I had a lot of time for Earl. I don't know what it was. Huddersfield Giants always seemed to be on Sky on a Friday night back in the day. I seem to be watching Earl every other week. I've got. I think with Earl, he was just a big, powerful forward, and you knew when you saw him come on, that he was going to add some real weight and a bit more dynamicism into the pack. I think as well, though, I'm a big wrestling fan, so like the tie-in with Shirley Crabtree with his uncle. I was kind of naturally drawn whenever I watched Huddersfield to watching Earl as well. So yeah, I think, and I had the chance to meet him back at SLR Live back in January, and what a nice bloke. The type of bloke who'd make as much time as you want to talk to him and talk to you like he knows you. Absolutely salt of the earth bloke, and yeah, I was delighted when I met him back in January because he was one of my favourite players back in the day.
Well, he certainly didn't disappoint. I say don't meet your heroes. Earl's a proper stand-up guy, and Super League Raw Live, of course, we did that back in January. Seems a long time ago now. Earl and Benny Westwood, a great night in the Bluebell, the home of Super League Raw. Okay, let's get into you. Let's get into you. So you say you come late to the party. So talk to us about that. How did you discover rugby league? What was your early journey in the game?
Yeah, so I think in growing up with my brother and my mum and dad, I think for us, sport was always on the TV. So, you'd struggle to come into the living room and find something that wasn't sport, apart from when the likes of the soaps were on at night time. But other than that, it was quite a sport orientated family in terms of like what we watched, and if there was sport on, it'd be on telly, and I think. I remember, like I say, Friday nights and stuff like that back in the day. I think probably around the time of Bradford being a bit of a powerhouse, weren't it, in
Yeah.
rugby league, with the likes
Yeah.
of Paul Deacon and players like that playing for him. So I remember watching a lot of the Bulls and St Helens and teams like that around the time. And I think that was probably when I first started watching it. I mean, I watched it as a neutral for a long time, because it was years later when I went to my first Salford game and started following Salford, and I watched it as a neutral. I just used to enjoy watching the games, just on a Friday night, just watching Super League under the lights. And there were a lot of good teams at the time as well. There were a lot of good matchups on those Friday nights as well. And for me, yeah, like I say, it was a little bit later that I went to my first Salford game, but I used to just love watching it as a neutral. That's why I referenced Huddersfield before, because I used to enjoy watching them play back in the sort of mid-noughties. Yeah, that's kind of really how it all started for me, Dave, in terms of being a viewer, as a neutral more than anything else.
Yeah. So, I mean, where are you based? You're based, are you Bolton way?
I'm between Bury and Bolton, yeah.
You're between Bury and Bolton. So, I mean, as a big Earl Crabtree fan, as the crow flies, you're not a million miles from Huddersfield either. So why Salford?
So I actually went to university at Salford. I'm from the other side of Manchester originally. I'm from the Oldham. Well, I was over Oldham way,
right.
Which is even closer.
Yeah.
To Huddersfield.
Yeah.
But Salford was actually the first game I ever went and watched live, and that's kind of why it stuck with me. I was trying to work back through before whether it was 2007 or 2008. I remember the game me, my brother, and my dad went to was Leeds at home and at the Willows, and Leeds gave us a bit of an hiding that day. And I think there was their fullback was, I think, was it Stuart Donald, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it was, and I feel like he got hat trick that day.
It'd have been around that time.
Yeah, I feel like he got hat trick against us that day. He was on fire, and I remember being stood behind the post at the Willows with him right in front of us, and every time the ball was dropping and he was getting on it, I was kind of a bit worried what was going to happen. But that was really it. I mean, like I say, the links into it were kind of through the fact that I was at university in Salford, but also that I'd just gone with my brother and my dad on a Friday night to the Willows.
Was that Leeds? Did you
It
say?
was Leeds, yeah.
Yeah, no, Scott Donald, isn't it?
Scott Donald, yeah.
Scott
I made the mistake.
Yeah, as you said it then, Stuart Donald. I'm thinking Stuart Donald. That just doesn't ring a bell. Scott Donald.
Yeah, Scott Donald.
Yeah, go
on. So yeah, that's kind of where it all started for me. And yeah, like I say, at Salford, because that was the first match that I'd ever gone and watched live, and kind of stuck with it from there, Dave.
Fair enough. And then your memories of supporting Salford. I mean, I have to ask, what about your gran? Because you said your dad, your brother, your dad, or whatever it was. The old Vindaloo song. What about your gran? You know what I mean? Me, my brother, and my dad, and me. Gran you know what I mean? I have to ask about your gran. Anyway, no, I'm only joking. So yeah, talk us through your memories then. I mean, Willows, first of all, the Willows. I mean, wow. I mean, you're talking a purist ground there. I mean, for those, the younger generation who's watching this, they won't even know what you're talking about, the Willows. Describe the Willows as best you can.
A ground of character that arguably would not look out of place against some stadium within Super League today, to be absolutely honest with you.
Are you thinking maybe a Castleford Tigers when you
I may be thinking about
you might be saying that.
I might be thinking about that, yeah. I think the one thing with the Willows was its location, and it's a proper heartland sort of location. And as much as the RFL wanted the move away from that to a stadium that was more befitting of a Super League team, which absolutely the AJ Bell is, or sorry, the Salford Community Stadium is.
Yeah,
it's just removed so much from the city of Salford in terms of its location now. I think it's only about 4 or 5 miles further out than the Willows was. I don't think it's a million miles away, but I think it just feels remote. when you go there now. It don't feel the same. It don't feel as ingratiated with the community as it used to do with the Willows. And I think, the Willows was rough and ready. So, and I think that really helped. I think the proximity and how it felt playing there probably helped Salford as a team and probably give them a lift. I feel like the move to the community stadium, whilst it is a much better venue in terms of the facilities, in terms of probably a bit more in terms of fan experience, it probably lacks what the character that the Willows had. And like I say, I think it probably hurt the team a little bit moving away from the Willows as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, oh, no doubt. I mean, the Willows was an imposing venue for any travelling side stroke fans, really. You're absolutely right. I think Witherspoon had the same. Tigers has it. Craven Park to a certain extent is a pretty traditionalist ground. All right, it's modernised, but it's got that same feel to it that perhaps a Headingley, a brick community, the larger stadiums can't conjure up. So you'll never know what you missed. Is what I say to the kids. You never know what you missed. Supporting Salford. I mean, we'll get to 2025 in a bit in terms of how you're feeling as a Salford fan. But I mean, let's talk positively for a bit. Your first game, I mean, remind me, who did you go your first game with?
My brother and my dad.
Wonderful stuff. I mean, and again, that's what makes our game, isn't it? It's the family experience side of it. I mean, great memories for you going with your brother, your dad to the game at the Willows.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Just because we used to do quite a lot together in terms of sporting stuff. Me, my brother, and my dad. We used to go watching a lot of the round ball. I'll take the yellow card for it, but we used to go watching the round ball. I love a lot, and I think the experience of going to rugby league after going watching football, for me personally, felt like a lot more of an environment that I wanted to be in. And what I mean by that is it's absolute apples and oranges if you've been a long-term football fan and then you start going watching rugby league, in terms of the experience, in terms of like the sort of the feel and the environment even around the ground. You go to football, you don't get opposition fans that stood having a pint together and stuff like that. And that was something I really enjoyed, like the whole thing of the mixing and kind of why I sort of naturally then sort of became a little bit more sort of attracted to the rugby league side of it and started moving away from the football side of it because of what it meant and the sort of the relationships that you build, even with people of wearing the opposition's colours. And I think personally to me that experience mattered a lot more and felt a lot more natural to me than going to football, and actually to the point where I don't really watch that much football anymore at all. No. I'll certainly go to the games, maybe the odd one. But yeah, I think for me, really good memories of going. So yeah, it's and they're the sort of connections and things like that you build and the things that you'll remember, which is nice now that I get to take my daughter to games. And that's something that, of all the things, and we've said this before when we've been on Final Whistle after the Castleford game and stuff like that, but the thing we have in common other than DNA is the fact that we'll both sit in the West Stand shouting Salford at the top of our lungs on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, and something that we've been really lucky that we've been able to share together, and hopefully we'll continue to do that for years to come.
Yeah, I mean, lovely, heartwarming stuff, and you won that day, didn't you? As I recall, with your little inch, it was a good luck charm that day. Yeah, I mean, just talk to us about the emotion of that. I mean, I remember when I took my kids for their first game as a dad. Just walk us through it as a dad in that stand. Did you take just a moment to just step back and reflect in terms of the memory that you were making and how important that moment was to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think So Millie's first game was Warrington at home last year, because that was she's 5, so she was probably just about the right age to really get into it then, and it was the first sporting event she'd ever been to as well. So she was mesmerised. She was
absolutely. Is that the one where Stoney went in and won it?
Yeah.
Oh, not a bad game that to start her off.
It wasn't. The only problem was her attention span ended at 65 minutes when we were walking back to the car, and I think I think we scored literally. So it was 12-11, and she turned to me and she said, "Daddy, can we go now?" And I was like, I looked at my watch and I thought, yeah, you know what? You've done really well here for your first event to last 65 minutes. And literally, as we walked out the gate and the steward closed the door behind us, I heard the roar and I turned around and realised the door was closed and I couldn't even see it. So yeah, so she is a good luck charm because she's never seen us lose, but she's not always seen us win either, because we were losing at that game where we stopped watching. But
no pocket money that week.
Absolutely no pocket money that week. But it's one of those things where I, because I was sort of a rugby league fan coming into it a little bit later, and getting to games and that probably a little bit later than most. I probably had a handful of experiences where I was going with my brother and my dad and stuff like that before I then started going more regularly. But to share that with Millie, and even because we're kind of adopted Salfordians, because neither of us are from Salford, and we're not born within the city, but to sort of share that adopted Salfordian nature, and like the fact that we're both standing there cheering for the same team. Yeah, there's something very special about it, and to see the look of awe on her face at that first game is something that will stay with me for a long time, and it really is something that will stay with me for a long time. The the game this season against Castleford, because she's been to 2 games now, because I'm just building her up to it, but the Castleford game was the other game that she's been at, which is why she's not seen us lose. And I feel like she was a lot more aware of what was going on, which is good. I feel like she was sort of taking it in. Don't get me wrong, she was still in awe about everything else that was going on, and really disappointed that Diablo the Devil wasn't running around the pitch that day. And I can only assume he's not been paid, which is why he wasn't there. But I couldn't say that to her at the time. I said, "Oh, he mustn't be here today. He must be somewhere else." And yeah, she loved it. And I think, and I said this on Final Whistle, like, the thing that gets into your bones and into your soul is that experience of watching your team, and the highs and lows of it all. But if you're at games where your team's playing particularly well, like we scored try after, I think, did we score 5 tries, I think, against Castleford? There was a lot of noise, a lot of cheering. There was a lot of relief that day as well, though. So the cheering and the emotion that was coming from people was genuine and was raw, because of the fact that we'd been abysmal all season. And I was lucky that I was there and able to share that with Millie, because I'd not cheered much at home this season. There wasn't a lot to cheer for. And if I'd worked out, had I not been there that day, she'd have seen as many tries scored as I'd have seen throughout the course of the season, or something about the same amount. It's mad. It's honestly mad how many tries we've scored. It's there or thereabouts.
Wonderful moments, mate. Right, let's get into probably, arguably, your most exciting season that you had was 2019. There's no doubt about that. I mean, so let's try and relive a little bit of that, because that's probably the pinnacle of your time supporting the Salford Red Devils. So many memories from that season, the semi-final against Wigan, of course, the final itself, where you were in it until half time, and then of course Saints did the job in the second half. Your recollection of 2019, what was it like as a Salford Red Devils fans to suddenly have that taste of success, or very close to it?
I think that season was obviously the pinnacle, and if we'd have ended the drought for a trophy, I think that would have been like next level stuff. that season, I just feel like it clicked. I feel like we were in good we were in good form under Watson. I feel like the recruitment had been really good. I feel like we brought players in who arguably are the best ever to wear a Salford shirt, and I'd say Jackson Hastings, just on the record, I'd say he is the best player ever to wear a Salford shirt, certainly in my lifetime. When you look at the team, especially like even the team that we sent out for the grand final, there was a lot of really, really good players who played for us that day. And I think it just clicked for us that season. I think we'd had a good run of in terms of avoiding injuries. I don't remember us having loads and loads of injuries that season, and I think we came into pace at the right time, and really pushed on in the semi-final versus Wigan. You know, I think we sort of really did a number on them that day.
Incredibly.
Say that again, sorry, Dave.
Incredibly so. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think we really did a number on that day. And going into the grand final, I was moderately confident that we'd be there or thereabouts. And when you look at the strength of the team and the squad that we had that day, I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong, there's some absolute powerhouses who played for St Helens that day. A lot of who are probably, some of whom are still around, aren't they? You know, your likes of Johnny Lomax and Morgan Knowles and the like, they're still playing, aren't they? So, whereas actually in the Salford team, I'm not sure there's anyone from that 2019 squad, is there?
It's interesting that you say that, because you know my recollection of that Salford Red Devils team at the time, it wasn't a team that was littered with stars. I mean, I'm right in saying, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but my recollection is, you know, Gil Dudson was in the pack, Tyrone McCarthy was in the pack. I think Josh Jones played for you in that final. Logan Tompkins was around that time as well. You had him there as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, you did have quality. I mean, you've already mentioned Jackson Hastings, Tuilolahea was in the halves. And one of my guilty pleasures, and I'm sure you loved watching him, Ken Seo. What a player Ken Seo was.
Absolutely. I think was his last performance for Salford. I don't think did he go anywhere else after?
I think he went back home, didn't he? My recollection.
Did he play or did he just go home? Because he went on compassionate grounds, didn't he? But
yeah, he went home.
I mean, I think because the players who you were referring to before about not being stars, I wholeheartedly agree with. I just think we were littered with stars in the backs. So if you look at the backs and the halves, it was a really, really strong team.
It was.
Niall
Levels was the fullback at that time as well, wasn't he?
Niall Levels was the fullback at that time.
Yeah. I mean, I know that Ken Seo, I mean, again, it was certainly he averaged way over a try a game for Salford, way over. I mean, I remember at the time, me and Greg doing weekly, and you know, we were constantly talking about Ken Seo's strike rate. He was one of the best wingers to ever grace Super League in terms of, you know, tries per game ratios. He was outstanding.
Yeah, 78 tries from 102 appearances. Yeah.
There you go. I teed you up for that, mate. Go on.
I wasn't wrong. No, you weren't, mate. He's tried, but to be fair, his performance across all teams was pretty good. 168 out of 261 appearances. But yeah, he did the most damage. He did the most damage for us. I loved watching him play. He's all right to be a guilty pleasure, Dave, because he was a good player, Ken Seo.
Quality player. No, it was a great season for you, mate. It was a great season, and you dared to dream. And you know that. I mean, and this is the thing about, you know, our competition. Yes, we've only had 4 winners, but you know, there's a lot of teams that have come close, and I think hopefully we're going to see more of that. I mean, from your perspective, I mean, I know Salford probably booked the trend of what I'm going to say this season, but I do think that the competition each year is getting more competitive for those trophies. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. And I'd say so the last handful of seasons. And, you know, if you look at, you look at this season, you've just had OKR who's ended their drought for a trophy, haven't they, with the Challenge Cup. And even, I mean, notwithstanding last night's result, you know, the top 3 this year are pretty well. The top 3 are pretty strong this year, generally, aren't they? Lee look a team other than the perform. Well, I've not watched it all yet, so I can't really comment on last night. But You've got teams who are challenging now who wouldn't be there previously. I wonder this year. I think KR will win the league leaders. I wonder whether they'll get the grand final. If they don't, I'd be a bit. You might see the same name on the trophy again, because you might find that someone like Leeds can win it from quite far down the table, because they've got form of being able to win from like 5th and 6th, haven't they? But it'd be nice to see another name on the grand final trophy. I'd love to see someone else with the Super League Championship, because I think it's good for the sport, isn't it? Let's get 5, 6, 7 winners on there. If a different team wins it every year, it makes it a bit more entertaining, makes it a bit more competitive at the top end of the league, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, for people who, of course, might be watching this next year or the year after, this is recorded around round 21, 2025 Super League, and Lee have just lost to Leeds at the LSV last night. But I mean, I think genuinely, I think Lee and KR genuine contenders. I would say that, and of course, like Salford back in the day, there is a guilty pleasure in Wakefield Trinity floating around as well. That I think we're all finding a lot of happiness in. And again, and when you lost that grand final in 2019, I think there's a lot of people at that point probably think, well, that's it. Salford, it's almost like Chesney Hawks, 1-8 wonder, that'll be that, done and dusted. And then lo and behold, 2022 comes along, but a young man called Brodie Croft comes along, really spearheads. You mentioned Jackson Hastings, Brodie Croft that season for you was simply superb. Littered with great players. Callum Watkins was playing, Elijah Taylor, who I really enjoyed at loose forward. I thought he was a great player for you in 2022. And of course, the god that was Tim Lafai came into Salford. I mean, Timothy, was there anything better than a Tim Lafai offload, in your opinion, Matt?
No, he's one of the best, isn't he? That's it's a joy to watch him when he's got a couple of defenders wrapping him up and he's got a free hand. I think I really enjoyed watching Tim Lafai play, obviously, because he was such a good player. And I was gutted when he took the decision. I know, notwithstanding what's happened this season, he was kind of a little bit. I think he was going home at the end of this season anyway. I think he'd made the decision already that he wasn't gonna stick around, because I think his family are back in Australia. So I think he'd made the decision. But what a player! I mean, in terms of recruitment, following on from the disappointment of 2019 and 2020 in terms of the Challenge Cup final, we never stopped. Yeah. We just kept on going and trying to recruit heavy and see where we can get to within the league.
Yeah, no, really, really good. I'd expect Tim Lafai, if you were going to pick in your period of watching Salford, I think Tim Lafai's a shoe-in for one of your centre spots, wouldn't he? If you pick your 1 to 13 in the team that you watched.
Yeah, 100%. I'll be honest with you. McDonald would probably get the other centre spot on the other side as well.
Really? Yeah,
I think he probably would. I think I'd say the 2024 team. I mean, if I was to, I could do the sort of 1 to 13 in my head, but I feel like, McDonald would be there.
Let's do it. Come on, we'll go with it. Who'd be your fullback?
Niall Evalds, I think.
Niall Evalds would be fullback. Your 2 wingers? Gotta be Ken, surely.
Ken CO, 100%.
You put it on the other side.
Dion Cross was prolific. He scored a lot of tries for Salford.
Yeah. Very good outside Lafai. Very good outside Lafai. It was a good partnership that they had. I would say. So I could see that.
I'd probably go for Cross on that side. Masters would be on my bench, although he's a very good player. McDonald and Lafai at centre.
You can see him.
Yeah.
Who's your half-backs then?
Hastings and Sneed.
You put Sneed in. Not tempted to put Crofty alongside him. You want the kick in Sneed?
Yeah, I'd want the kick in of Sneed, I think.
Fair enough.
Sneed's probably one of my all-time favourite Salford players. Probably the number one. I absolutely love Sneed. He's an Oldham lad like me as well. He's a left-footed lad like me as well, and I love to think I can kick like him and I can put the ball up like he can. But my potential for playing rugby league only exists vicariously through the career of Mark Sneed at this point. My kicking days are well done.
In the are you going? I'll do your number 9 first. Who'd be a hooker?
It's tough on that. I do like Joe Mellor, even for the last few seasons he's played for us.
I think Joe Mellor's been a real standout for you this year. I think he's, he's put his heart into it. You can't fault him.
No, I agree. I think Mellor in hooker.
No Andy Ackers.
I was tempted. No, I'm going to go for Mellor.
That'll get a few going. That's
it's
happy
all right.
days.
I'm basing it off more than just rugby league. I'm basing it off Joe Mellor's attitude and his behaviour on and off the field.
Fair enough. Are you going as your props?
Again, it's recent, but I do like Jack Ormond-Droyd. And he's run his nuts well this season.
I feel for you, mate. I think that's a massive blow that he's.
I feel like of everyone that's gone, that's really hurt because
he's been a good servant.
He's a player I've heard get interviewed loads, and I would kind of assumed he would be the last one out the door. And to be fair to him, I mean, there's not many more to go. He's probably one of the last ones out of the door for the time being.
Yeah.
I don't know who I'd go for as my other prop.
It's a toughie, isn't it? It is a toughie that. Dudson was decent. I thought first time round for you.
Yeah.
I thought Dudson was decent in your lifetime. First time round, Dudson maybe. It is a tough one.
Yeah, maybe.
It is a tough one that. Second row, this should be easier.
Yeah, Callum Watkins has got.
Yeah, absolutely. Quality player. Who'd you put alongside him, mate?
Struggling with that a little bit as well.
Again, you've had a few good players. I mean, like I say, Sam Stone hasn't let you down. Shane Wright's been decent.
Yeah, I'd go for Shane Wright. I think that I was just trying to muddle back through my brain over the last few years. Who's played at second in the second row. I think I'd go for Shane Wright.
Yeah.
We've missed him this season. He's been out all year. He's done for the season as well.
I know.
Totally done.
Saying that, didn't you? Saying that, would that have been your time, Matty Ashurst? I think he was. He was a good player for you, Matty Ashurst. Andrew Dixon was a good player for you as well.
Andrew Dixon was it? Yeah.
He was a good player for you as well. What about you? You loose forward again. Ollie Partington, Elijah Taylor.
I like Partington. I was gutted when he left last season.
Good tackler.
Good player. Yeah, I think he could walk into any Super League team. I know he's at Catalan at the moment, but I think he could.
I think he's up there. It depends what you want out your number 13. He's not a ball playing 13. He's a tackling 13, but he's a very, very effective one. Right. Let's just get into this year. Come on. Over to you. You're a Salford fan. I mean, it's been a death by 1,000 cuts. Floor is yours. 2025 as a Salford fan. Walk us through it, mate.
It's been soul destroying, to be honest, Dave. I mean, I feel like it kind of started last season. I feel like, because I was talking about this when I bobbed onto the Robin pod the other week around when it all started to unravel from a finance perspective anyway, because Jono asked me over there, he said, was it when Joe Burgess left and when he moved to KR? I didn't quite see it that early. I thought it was when Croft and Ackers went to Leeds after Croft had signed his 20-year deal or however long it was.
Not quite 20, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, it was, which in hindsight, how on earth would we have been able to pay his contract out if we needed?
He'd have bankrupted your club now.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, that was the alarm bells really starting when we let go of Croft and Ackers to Leeds. That was a real killer. For me, we could be in trouble here. That this is the time where we might start offloading a few. And obviously, then I'm looking, kind of going, keep the spine of the team, and you'll be okay. You know, keep a nice strong middle, and you kind of fill in the other positions. So then we obviously play the St Helens game first, the one that will probably be a talking point for the remainder of this year. Put 2 teams forward to the RFL. One of those teams, which would have been under quota, apparently was rejected because I think they wouldn't have had enough interchanges within there to play the game. The RFL accepted the second squad. That's obviously now the talking point over like the points deduction. I don't feel like we necessarily handled that with maybe as much class as we could have done. I feel like we probably could have been a little bit smarter and a little bit more apologetic about the manner of that team selection and how that first game would go down. And the crippling thing about the whole thing was that it was on BBC as well. It was on national television. It wasn't even on the red button, was it? It was on BBC One, I think.
It was a bad look, mate. It was a bad look.
Horrendous look for the sport. We then move forward to either game 2 or 3, where the restrictions are lifted. We play a full team. We got beat in that game as it was anyway, and then back under restrictions again. And then, you know, it was really from there on out. It was really a case of, like you say, a death by 1,000 cuts. What's been the most staggering thing for me is, if owners want to run a club poorly, then that's their prerogative. But the communication through the whole thing has been nothing short of abhorrent. And the one thing, you know, what became apparent early doors about, you know, people talk about it's a land grab. What became apparent really early doors was that it absolutely was that. And you know, the rugby was second, and Chris Irwin said that himself. He said these aren't rugby people. They've come in to take the land. Of the, you know, all he wanted from all of this was a pot of money to go and run the club, and he would have managed the finances, managed it all, let Paul Rowley do the recruitment that he wanted to, and we would have been better off from, you know, things like the sale of the stadium in terms of like the money from refreshments and all that kind of stuff, which Chris has openly talked about. In his interview with John Wilkin on Thoughts. In hindsight, because all we've really done now is delay the inevitable, which is the fire sale, which should have happened at the start of the season. And all that's really happened now is that fire sale that should have happened in February and March is now happening. And it's got us to a point we've not been competitive throughout the season. But we're all, you know, I kind of say reputation of the integrity of the competition at this point, because it's a terrible look for the sport. You know, if I take myself for the sport to have a team constantly kind of being in disrepute, right, bringing the game into disrepute with where we're at the moment. I've got a lot of sympathy for the players and even the players who are departing at the moment, right? You know, they're doing that with the sort of the right intentions, because we've got to the point of the season now where it's being reported that, you know, pension contributions aren't being paid and stuff like that into the players, or into the pension pots for the players. You know, you can't run a business like that. You know, I'm not surprised that players have departed us now at the rate they are doing. I'm surprised it's taken this long into the season, Dave. I think, you know, like I say, this could have happened back in February, March, and yeah, we would have been left really scratched for the remainder of the season. But we kind of probably would have been on about the same points that we're on now anyway. It wouldn't have made a hell of a lot of difference. So we've delayed the inevitable. It's been horrendous watching. You know, the only game I've gone to this season thinking we'd have a chance was the Castleford game, because we'd played well against Warrington the week prior. But even the game earlier on in the season against Huddersfield, I didn't think we were going to win that. But the only thing that won us the game that night was the fact that Huddersfield was so under strength because of all the injuries that they had. Otherwise, I think we would have been really struggling then. So for me, it's like you say, it's death by 1,000 cuts. I don't see a way in the current ownership model that we avoid a sort of a nasty drop into a combined second tier, because I think the Championship and League One are going to become one by the sounds of it next season with an East and a West division.
Yeah, they're going to decide on that. It looks that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, which will send us probably into that West division. And you know, I think the one thing that I found disrespectful over everything else was the reports the other week after the Hull KR game, last week actually, sorry, after the Hull KR game, of the owners saying that they're going to be in Super League next year. And these are the same ownership group that have been silent since the end of February, early March. So it's just a real tough time, Dave. And you know, I would say, without getting too much into the financial side of it, I mean, we're heading for administration. The assets aren't there to cover the debt that's currently there, because they don't own the stadium. If they own the stadium and had collateral against it, then that's a different story. And probably that's what the ownership group were trying to angle for with the sale of the stadium to them from the council, because you can use that as collateral for anything else that you need to do in terms of your development. Use it as collateral for your financing to do the other parts of it. But seeing players leave has just been absolutely soul destroying. Like I say, Mark Sneyd over the last few seasons has definitely been my favourite player, and it absolutely broke my heart when he went to Warrington. And then when he moved on, I took a real shine into Chris Hankinson. Thought, Chris Hankinson, good player. He's my favourite player from now on. Then he disappeared, and then within a couple of hours of that happening, my third went as well. So Jack Armandride went.
Stop making players your favourite, Matt. It's all your fault.
I'm not doing it anymore. Absolutely, I'm not doing it anymore.
I mean, I want to get into you as a fan in a minute, but just sticking with this for a second. The feeling this week, and again at the time recording, it's round 21 at this moment in time. By all accounts, Salford are struggling. The hitchhiking to the game at Hull KR, because they can't get a bus company to take him, if you believe in what we're hearing. So it is in dire straits. This week's almost felt like the white flag's gone up above the SCS. That's the feeling that, everybody was saying to get to the end of the season. All of a sudden now it's like, well, will they? And I think we've seen a couple of loan announcements. Riley Lum could pick up. Riley Lum's a great player. I think the rest of the league are going to make sure you've got 17 players on the field. But the problem with that is, to what end? Don't get me wrong. The likes of a Riley Lum, he's playing for a starting spot when Sevo comes back. So there's bit. Hankinson out, Lum in. I mean, in some respects, with the expansion of Super League, I'm thinking of this on the fly as we're talking. The fact that Riley Lum's been loaned out, Hankinson's gone in. If Hankinson was to stay, Sevo back, is Riley Lum putting himself in the shop window for Club 13-14 at Salford? And will he want to run through brick walls for you?
I mean, very possibly. I think I've kind of come to, over the last few weeks, because I guess a little naive part of me always thought maybe something will happen throughout the season, whether that's the money that's being promised magically starts to appear, or whether someone else comes in and says, well, we're going to take all this on. You'd have to have a lot of money to do that second part of it, though, to come in and go, do you know what, we'll take all the debt and we'll write it off and we'll start again, because there's a lot of debt there. I think we're talking about £5 or £6 million. No one's going to come in and take that amount of debt on it. It'd have to go, like you say, via the administrator. But I think maybe the likes of Riley Lum and that are going to come in, and it is a good way, like you say, Dave, of putting themselves in the shop window for a move to 13 or 14. I mean, it won't be us, but because we'll be playing in that West Division next year. But I think, yeah, maybe. I mean, look, talking about 13, 14, if the things that I'm hearing are right, Bradford will be in the 12. So you're then talking about maybe York and possibly London following them up. It's not a long way from Leeds to York. If you want to still live in Leeds and play rugby league at the top level, York's not a long way away.
Nobody's talking Toulouse, mate, and I think Toulouse are going to be in the shake-up. There's no doubt about that, and I think betting, I think Bradford to lose, and then it's going to be, is it York, is it London, which one is it going to be, is what I would say. But I mean, look, in the same spirit as Wakefield, when Wakefield went down, Salford will survive as an entity. I think Salford will rise again, as per the song says. I think Salford will rise again. And I think what Wakefield have enjoyed is, people like to go and see the teams win. And I think that what Salford fans, the hardcore that are there already, that are going now, they remain. But what you might do, like Wakefield have done, Lee did, KR can do, is that you can attract new supporters, because you expect to be winning more games. And with winning comes supporters that go to the ground to watch it. And then hopefully by the time you do rise back up again in terms of a Super League proposition, maybe the crowds are a little bit better because you managed to bring some along the way. So it's worked for Wakefield, it's worked for Lee, it's worked for KR. Let's hope it works for Salford. The last thing on this though, Matt, as a Salford fan, Matt, good rival, who knows? I would say this started with Kukash. I would go as far back as them. I really do. Kukash, when he came into Salford, all the bells and whistles, you were going to be world beaters. And that's when, for me, the slide started. And of course, then he leaves the club in what would appear to be a right mess. Because once you pull the benefactors' money out, now you're in trouble. And they've never really recovered from that. They've always been firefighting since then. Yeah. Owners come and go, supporters remain. As a supporter of Salford Red Devils, what would your message be to the people that ran your clubs? Because you said about the silence being deafening. As a supporter, and I know there's legalities as to why that might have been, but as a supporter, you want to be treated with respect. What would your sentiments be towards the owners of the club that got you into this trouble? And what would your message be to potential owners to help you to revive the club in the future?
Yeah, I think at the moment, I was talking to someone about this the other day. When you take everyone else out of it, really, there's only the supporters who'll really be hurt by this for a long time. Because players, while they have pride for wearing the badge when they're playing for the club, will get that same pride wearing the badge for another club. So the likes of Chris Hankinson will enjoy his time at Leeds. The likes of Jack Ormondroyd will enjoy and give 100% at his time in Oldham. But the only party in all this that gets properly destroyed and it are the ones carrying all the hurt and carrying all the weight of this are the supporters and maybe the non-playing staff within the club as well. Yeah. Because a lot of them will be Salford fans and who've worked there for a long time. People on the, there's people who've worked there for like 4 years, people going back to the Willows and stuff like that. And the Salford through and through, and they are, it's kind of in the bones and in the DNA. What I would say in terms of like owners wanting to come into the club is that you've got such a massive catchment area and such a loyal fan base. So that hardcore of probably sort of 1,500, 2,000 people who just rock up every week, week in, week out, some of whom have been season ticket holders for probably 40, 50 years. I know people who've been going to games with their dads since they were little, and now they're both getting older. They've been going for sort of like 40 years, watching it week in, week out with the dad and stuff like that. There's such a loyal fan base and such a big catchment area that actually investing in a club with that sort of potential it could be an absolute goldmine. Because even if people did the very basic things of going to schools and going, do you know what, you probably never heard of this rugby league team before, but we're going to tell you a little bit about it, and we're going to give you some free tickets and come and see it, and try and get that new generation of rugby league fan, try and get younger rugby league fans into the stadium, try and get them hooked on the sport, try and get them to become part of that hardcore. And there's such a big area to do that. The city of Salford is a big area to go and do all that. I would like to see in future Salford Rugby League Football Club back in the heartlands, back in the community, back in an area where it can thrive and where it can really grow. There's been a lot of talk, and I keep hearing stuff about a move to Moor Lane, which would be a hell of a lot more intimate environment than the Salford Community Stadium is at the moment. So the potential's there, and I would love that. If we do go down and play in that West League, that we start that rebuild properly and start it from the ground up and make sure that we're totally set for success next time that we have the opportunity to come and knock on the door of the Super League. Because if we sort of go down, come back up in a couple of years' time, unless we've done those very, very fundamental things right, unless we've got the strategy right in terms of our locality, in terms of our reach, in terms of how we're going to entice the next generation of rugby league fans, how we enhance that match day experience, it won't work. We've got to build some of this stuff up from scratch. So we've got to work out, if we're not going to be at the Salford Community Stadium, where are we going to be? What does that fans' match day experience look like? Does it look like the likes of, on a smaller scale, because we obviously won't be in the Super League, does it look like the likes of Lee? Does it have a Craven Street? Is it like that? Does it really build that match day experience? Because that's the thing that will keep fans wanting to come and make them sticky in terms of that proper match day experience, rather than just going to the match. I think the days of just going to the match are gone, and the teams who are doing it well at the moment are doing the whole package rather than just the 80 minutes on the field. So all these things are the very, very fundamental building blocks of what we need to do as part of that rebuild. But the first and foremost of all of that is, got to sort this debt out one way or another. This debt's got to go. We've got to try and work out a model of sustainability through capital injection from wherever that comes from. But it's going to be a long rebuild. I see this taking quite a long time.
Yeah, it probably will. I have to smile, going to the match. Alex Lowry, see what he did there. Nice, very nice indeed. Yeah, I mean, look, mate. Within the Super League Royal community, we've had nothing but respect for your plight this year, and obviously a lot of well wishes have come your way. It's the biggest nightmare for any supporter to see the thing that you love ripped apart the way that Salford has been ripped apart. Let's be honest. In closing, before we just get on to the final bit of today's Under the Floodlights, Paul Rowley, would you expect Paul to go?
I think he's the number one choice for Castle.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure. I'd be surprised at that. Nothing, but then again, what does surprise you in rugby league? I'd be surprised at that, but it could happen. Yeah. He's got a mortgage to pay, of course, and it is the job that's open. But by that, you pretty much expect that it's a matter of when, not if, Paul Rowley was to leave.
Yeah, so I mean, he was supposed to be moving upstairs at the end of this season anyway, wasn't he? That's off. I think that's totally off the table. I don't think that'll happen. I don't think it'll happen under the current ownership model. But I also don't see him being head coach of a championship team either next season. I don't see that as I may be wrong, but I think there'll be too many opportunities at Super League level. We don't even know yet what Brad Arthur's doing at Leeds. And I'm sure there's a lot of Leeds fans listening to this who would take Paul Rowley at the moment if he became available as well. So there's opportunities knocking around. I actually thought he might have been in the frame for the Catalan job before it was given to Joel Tompkins. But I'd be surprised. I see maybe Kurt Egerty as head coach next season, unless he goes with Paul. I can see that happening, because that was the plan anyway with Rolls moving upstairs. It was going to be Kurt Egerty.
Anyway. You could sort of see that carrying on, but I think Paul, possibly will more than likely move on, which is again great shame. But again, a man who can walk out with his head held high. He's handled himself with nothing but class throughout the season. I know that the Saints start to the season he got a few raps for, but nobody can say that Paul Rowley hasn't been exceptional in the way that he's handled the press and fronted up every week. Matt, from your perspective, 2 years ago, Super League Raw, you're not a part of Super League Raw. You might not have even heard of Super League Raw. As a Salford fan, talk to us about Super League Raw, our community. How important has that been to you this season? The support and the experiences as well with fellow support. I mean, I know a lot of them came down to watch a Salford game with you. Just walk us through what this community has meant to you this year in what has been a challenging season?
It's meant everything, Dave. I think so. I think I became a member last October. Yeah. I think it was around the time of the grand final. I think it was maybe. So kind of the only time that I've known the community is whilst we've been in turmoil, that we've not had any glory days while I've been part of that, because I think we were already out of the playoffs, I think, by the time I joined. So and then the rumours started circulating. I think it was November time, around the cash flow issues. But the membership, I mean, it's literally it's meant everything. I think it's hard when you talk to people who don't understand rugby league. So if you're talking to, so I've got mates who aren't into rugby league, so talking about like how you're feeling about the difficulties your club's going through is a lot easier with other rugby league fans, especially rugby league fans who've been there before. So there's a lot of Lee Leopards in there. Lee have been through this a handful of times themselves, maybe not to the extent of the poor ownership rather than just a lack of money. But they've kind of been where we are a few times. But you know, I've had, even over the last sort of 24 hours, I've had multiple DMs sort of going, "How are you coping? This has been a bit of a rough week." And I'm eternally grateful for that, because it's been a real challenging. You know what, the season's been a challenger, mate, but this last week's been hard. This last week has been really tough. Following on from the OKR game, and that was the game where the five had sort of said that they weren't going to play again, and the five have nearly all departed this week. I think there's only Joe Shorrock's left, who's not gone out with the five. I might be wrong. It might be Matt Foster. Yeah, but the community's meant everything. Like I say, everyone's been so supportive within there. The one thing I found it personally really difficult this week, and kind of been a little bit locked away from it all, just not to wanting to make it all the Salford show more than anything else. And you know, I was talking to my wife the other day and sort of saying, I don't know where I fit into it all next year, because we ain't going to be in there. You know, Salford aren't going to be in there. And she said something to me that stuck with me, and I'd not really thought of it until she said it, and then I thought it through, which was, she just went, "Matt, your happiest times this season haven't been watching Salford. Your happiest times this season has been spending time and going to other games with members. Like, you know, the week where we were all at Huddersfield, Steph and I were at the Saints League game on the Thursday night. You know, I did 2 games in 48 hours." And she's right. The only time that has come close to that this season was Castleford at home with Millie. But actually, you know, I've had some really, really poor viewings this year. Even like when we played Leeds dead early in the season at home, when they absolutely did us. I think it was at 28-0. They shut us out at home. And you know, I took a brand new he'd never seen a game of rugby league live before. He may have seen one on telly before. It was his first ever Salford game, and we got absolutely nailed at home. And what Lauren said was right. Like, my happiest times this season, I haven't been watching Salford. My happiest times this season have been with the other members, watching other games or talking about other games, or coming on Final Whistle and talking about either Salford games or other clubs. Because I've tried to watch things like, I always try and watch Catalan, because obviously we don't have a Catalan member within the group. So I always think, if I can talk about Salford and Catalan every week on Final Whistle, so I always watch the Catalan games anyway, to give us a bit of representation. But she's right. My happiest times this season, I haven't been watching Salford. It's been everything around it. It's been talking about rugby league and talking about other teams, rather than talking about Salford. And actually, what the community's given me is the ability to, if we're not playing, we don't talk about Salford, and that's great, because the last thing I want to do is live through the Salford show 24/7 on repeat, because it's soul destroying what's going on. It's really hard to sort of go through it as a fan, but the light relief you get from watching the likes of a Warrington Wigan on a Friday night, and talking to people while you're watching about that game detracts from everything else that you're feeling about your own club. And it's given me a more holistic view of rugby league, but it's made me what I'd consider friends for life as well. At
Fantastic, mate. What I would say is you're fitting incredibly well next year. Look at it this way: not only have the community given you all of that, but let's not forget what you've given to this community, and of course nobody more so than young Alfie. If you're not connected to Super League Raw all the way over there where you live, are you aware of Alfie sales? Probably not. Do you go and do a 10k run for him? Probably not. Do you raise getting on for £3,000 for his family? Absolutely not. Does he go on Granada Reports last night and get his fanfare? And I was delighted about that because we've started something where I think somebody else will now take it on to greater and greater heights. We'll continue to support, but that boy deserves everything he's getting and more, and so does his family. And mate, you did that. So you absolutely did that. You have been the flag bearer, really. Let's be absolutely honest in terms of Alfie. So, mate, never doubt your place in this community, what you mean to it, and what it can do for you as well. Because, like I say, yeah, Salford might not be there next year, but I think there'll be a lot of calling cards to get Matty Timms to grounds around the league, which in itself is a refreshing thing, to be able to go and have experiences. And as you say, your journey started as a neutral for the love of the game. So, by you going and maybe doing the Matt Timms tour, could that be a segment next year? Hey, the Matt Timms tour 2026. That'll be an interesting one. That'll keep your juices flowing, mate. But no, absolutely. I mean, look, over to you where Alfie's concerned. It must have. How much pride did you feel last night knowing the part that you've played? And you have played a huge part, mate. And Kieran would be the first to say that, Alfie's dad. And of course his mum would say the same. How proud were you to see Alfie getting regional coverage last night, and what you and the community have been able to do for that boy?
Outside of my family, it's probably the most fulfilling thing I've done in my life, because I've never done any charity fundraising stuff like that before. And I was a bit. I don't look it anymore, but I was a bit of a runner back in the day. I'm going to blame
tell your body on that
COVID.
bridge. Tell your body on that bridge at Salford when I seen you, mate. I think that'd argue with you, but carry on.
Yeah, steam from everywhere. But honestly, probably one of the most fulfilling things, like I say, I've done outside of my family life. And I'd never met Kieran before, and actually we only bumped into each other well after the fundraising started by accident when we were both in the Trafford Centre, and he spotted me from a distance, and we had a chat. And we've been trying to meet up and stuff like that. I think, like I say, it's one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done. I think a little bit selfishly, I think it's probably really helped me this season doing that while Salford have been going through what they're going through, because it's enabled me when I've not been able to talk about other games and other teams that are playing. The one thing I've always been able to do is kind of go, this is what we're planning next for Alfie. It's given me something to focus towards when we've been really struggling throughout the year, and it's enabled me to sort of go, I'm going to stop thinking about the Salford aspect for a minute. I'm going to only talk about the fundraising element of it. So it's been a nice thing, a nice distraction from everything that's happened this year. But I'm immensely proud. It was brilliant seeing Alfie last night. So I watched it when I came in last night. So I watched that, and I'd messaged Kieran as well. But absolutely immensely proud. And I think when we first started all this, we were talking. I was like, let's start with 500 quid and just see where we can get to in terms of how much we want to raise. And I always had a figure in my head, but I said let's start and sort of move up as we go in 500s and just kind of see where we get to. But to get to nearly 3,000 on the strength of a fat lad running a 10k is it's amazing, and it's totally blown me away. And the generosity of the members, and also because there's a lot of non-members who've put into the GoFundMe as well, right? So the generosity of everyone who's put into there has absolutely blown me away, and I'm really, really immensely proud of that. And I've become good friends with Kieran as well. We speak probably every other day, if not daily, now. And you know, it's such a nice thing to have been able to run it with him. You know, when he offered to sort of run it alongside and raise money that way, and the response from the clubs has been really well received as well. You know, we've got a lot of stuff that's going into the event later on in the year. So there's great generosity from the clubs, fantastic generosity from the membership, and I was blown away. I've been emotional a couple of times when we've kind of hit those landmarks, and I've been posting in the little side WhatsApp about the where we're up to and the landmark and the goals that we're hitting. And yeah, it's sort of blown me away a little bit, and it's been the one in terms of, like I say, it's been the distraction I think I needed this year from everything Salford related. But Alfie deserves it. He's a cracking little lad, and you know he's got, you know, the sort of things he's got on his wish list and things like that. You know, he's ticking them off now at a rate of knots. And you know, the more we can sort of support that and you know, help fund it and help send him on these things, you know, he's gonna have memories for life. He's a cracking little lad, and he deserves it. So I'm blown away by by, you know, I like to think I'm pretty humble with it all most of the time anyway. But yeah, I felt an immense amount of pride, especially, you know, when I was sort of looked at it this morning because there was a donation flew in, and it had taken it over 2,800 and a bit. I can't remember where we're at the moment, 2,813 or something like that. And yeah, I just kind of looked and I was like, the generosity is amazing around this.
It is, mate.
Yeah,
and I mean, a massive weekend coming up for the family. Got some more great memories, and you're right, a very, very special little man and a wonderful family. I mean, an absolute. I've met Kieran now a few times, lovely fella.
Brilliant.
Not seen much of his wife and his daughter, but you know, if Kieran and Alfie have anything to go by, every good man is popped up by a good lady. Yeah, she must be a very special person indeed. But no, mate, honestly, mate, incredible what you've done. You, like I say, you have been the flag bearer for that. And there'll be a lot of members who watch this who I'm sure will have enjoyed it and will be telling you, you're going nowhere. You're a massive part of our community. And let's end on a positive. Perhaps the best is yet to come. The grand final is going to be a very special day indeed. That is going to be something that I think will get your juices flowing for 2026. Over 40 of us having a full day together, sitting together at OT. You must be looking forward to that as a great way of ending the rugby season. Of course, we've still got things for Alfie to do between now and the end of the year. But in terms of the rugby, and of course, we've got the international as well. Let's not forget that. Yeah, but in terms of that, final, how much are you looking forward to that with the members?
Mega. So I think Huddersfield for me was the bit of a taster for it when I think there was 14 of us there at Huddersfield. I weren't able to make the Challenge Cup. It was just after I came back off holiday, so I weren't able to make the Challenge Cup. But yeah, I think I'm really looking forward to Old Trafford. I don't think Steph will mind me saying that. He might be forcing me to wear that if we if Lee end up getting there. So yeah, I think he'll have me in that
Fantastic.
night. But I'll be doing my best. It'd be interesting to see who gets there. I think there's a couple of powerhouse teams in there, isn't there? We've got KR and Lee. I fancy both of them. Maybe to get
imagine that.
Final, I think. So,
imagine going to a grand final where we're guaranteed a new name on the trophy. In itself, that would be a very, very special event indeed. But no, happy days, mate. And are you going to any of the internationals?
Yeah, Bramley Moor Dock.
Beautiful. So hopefully you'll be coming.
Yeah, we're going to go for the Bluebell.
Yeah, we're doing that. Yeah, it's going to be another Bluebell trip, so that'll be outstanding to have you coming there. Matt, mate, you are a champion fella, absolute champion fella. I could spend hours in your company, you know that. Keep your chin up. The community's here for you. Rugby League is always the winner, Matt. You've got massive memories to make in 2026 with Super League Raw. We hope you've enjoyed this very special Under the Floodlights with Matt. Of course, number three for In the Floodlights, Heritage number 84 in the bag. Matt, on behalf of everybody, you've provided some wonderful stories, entertainment and views. I'll catch up with you very, very soon, buddy. But on behalf of everybody, thanks very much for your time. Take care.
Thank you, Dave.